Sorry. Hello, everybody. I feel a little pretentious with this mic, but it's fine. My name is Gabrielle Martinez. I'm a co-founder and executive director of Tribe Incorporated. Tribe, if you're unfamiliar, is a nonprofit dedicated to the betterment of Black girls. We do that by creating programming that is built not just on what we think Black girls need, but what we actually see and have asked them and talked to them about. And specifically, we also try to work with people in the community, in the village, on how we can all be better for Black girls. I want to welcome you all to our first village conversation about a topic that is plaguing our community right now and specifically targeting Black girls. And we have an amazing panel, and we're so excited to have them have their expertise. I would also say thank you all for coming. Clearly, we see that this is not something that you get a lot of people in the room for a lot of times, but it's clearly a conversation that needs to be had. Instead, we're going to record this conversation. We're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to put it on Facebook, because whether or not you were here, you're going to get these words. And we appreciate these women and their knowledge and their intellectual property, and we know that it's valuable and invaluable in this time when we're dealing with these issues right now. So just quick housekeeping, getting it out of the way. I would like to shout out the Christmas elf in the corner, Miss Courtney Miller. She is the program coordinator extraordinaire for this amazing facility and made it so that we can have this space here in the heart of where a lot of the issues are happening, specifically not having this conversation outside of the community in which is being plagued. So thank you for hosting us. Thank you, Thurgood Marshall Academy, for always being a great community partner with Tribe. And we are so excited to continue this relationship. I would also like to highlight Ms. Janae White, who is a great friend of Tribe and a great just asset for Black girls all over. She is a dynamo. We have come up together from college, and ever since then, always supportive, always there, always relaying her resources essentially with this esteemed panel. And I'm going to give each of these wonderful ladies an opportunity to introduce themselves. And we're going to ask a couple of questions that we have developed ourselves, and then again, opening up the floor to those of you who are here and want to know in your specific things and your subjects to cover. So please feel very interactive. Feel free to take notes if there's something that you want to hit on, just so that we can let everybody answer the questions. And then at the end, we can address individually if you have anything you want to say to the speakers. So thank you so much. And first up, we will have Ms. Tina Frundt introduce herself, please. I don't even do that anyway. Oh no, I got you. Look, so we got space in y'all face.
So my name is Tina Frundt. I'm the executive director and founder of Courtney's House, based here in Washington, D.C. Courtney's House is the only African American run, survivor run, anti-trafficking organization that has a drop-in center and works with boys and girls. I know our focus is on girls, so I don't ever want you to forget that this happens to boys as well at the same rate. So never think it doesn't happen at the same rate. It's just that we wouldn't know if you're not serving the population. With that being said, our ages are 11 to 24. We'll talk a little bit later when everyone introduces themselves, what a drop-in center is, what we actually see, and how many referrals you get a week. And let me apologize, I literally just got back from Ethiopia, so I actually keep forgetting what time zone I'm in and what day it is, so I apologize for that, but please ask lots of questions.
I'm glad it does work because I am not a standard. My name is Tempey and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I experienced working with this population in child welfare. I've left child welfare and now I am a child and social worker. So I'm looking forward to continuing to serve this population, but in a different capacity.
Hi everybody, my name is Rashida. Prioleau. I am a prosecutor in the Office of the Attorney General in DC. My current role is that I serve as the child welfare attorney in Hope Court, which is the district's somewhat new specialty treatment court for youth that are at risk or confirmed of trafficking that are either in the child welfare or the juvenile systems. So that's just one of my hats. I also, CFSA is our client agency, and so I work with the agency on just all things DSEC, everything related to youth that are at risk. And I just want to add, I mean, I'm sure probably everybody in this room already knows, but Tina was being very, very modest in terms of her contribution into this space. I mean, we could be here all night talking about just how valuable and what exactly she means to the city, to young girls and boys, to us at the Office of the Attorney General, to CFSA. She really is a pioneer and really out here helping young people that are victimized. So I just wanted to just add that because I know maybe it's the time zone, but I just feel like we needed to say that a little bit more.
Thank you so much. So because Tina is a mom first, she is going to leave to go celebrate Courtney's birthday today. So shout out to Courtney. Happy birthday. So I just want to jump in and probably skip a few preliminary questions. Like what exactly, to people, a plain definition that we can talk to, a conversation with our families in our quick elevator pitch, what is the problem and what can we do as regular, just people walking the street? How can we be more vigilant and just your eyes before you have to go, just like what you've learned? Because she is selling herself a little short. If you have not had the opportunity to watch 3 a.m. Girls, please check out Tri's Facebook page. We'll be linking that soon, and you can watch it there and you can really see what Tina does. So when you say boots on the ground, grassroots, like taking people off of the streets, like this is the work that she does. So what can we do besides being like you all the way to the max? What can somebody just starting out wanting to be effective do?
So I actually you sent us an email and she asked a question, which I'm gonna also answer. One of those questions was about the history of trafficking in our area. So to answer her question, I'm gonna answer with another question that she did was this way. So I'm gonna take you all back because when we say trafficking, people always go, oh, it's this new thing, it's this new thing. And as we all know, I wish we could say that things didn't come back around and that this was a new thing, but it's not new, and we should know it's not new. So I'm gonna go back on age a little bit because I might be a little older than y'all. So I'm gonna take you down memory lane, and that would be down 14th Street. And if we'll go back into the 80s, we won't even go to the 70s for you. We'll do early 80s and we'll do late 80s and mid 90s because that's important because that was trafficking. So there were pimps that used to come to DC from all over the world. And those pimps was on 14th Street. And on 14th Street, used to go all the way up. I'm so DC because I'm going to tell you went uptown. And it went all the way uptown. And all the way uptown is up Clifton Terrace. So all the way down 14th and K to all the way up Clifton Terrace was a track. That track was with nothing but pimps and young girls. And people used to bring their whole family members out to come see the sight. They were pointing at the girls in the middle of the night at early daytime and we'll see it. People would make jokes and they would laugh about it and they would go up to the girls. They took pictures and they made fun of it. And guess what? That was trafficking then. See, we just named it trafficking. Trafficking is a governmental term and it's a legal term. So pimps get charged for trafficking. So then we separate and we say pimps and a trafficker is not the same thing. But in reality, it always has been the same thing. The thing is, I had learned the word trafficking, right? Because it's a governmental term. So people in the life, we don't use the word trafficking. That's a term that we had to learn. So understand that pimps have always been here. Understand that the women and girls, because they were always girls, never got paid. So this is nothing new, and we showcased it. So what actually happened was it was an epidemic in our city. And instead of actually fixing the problem, what the police used to do was make the girls walk across the 14th Street Bridge into Virginia with their shoes off and said, let it be Virginia's problem. And that's the way they used to actually solve it before everyone started really seeing what trafficking was. So it's never been hidden. It's never been undercover. It's just been something that we've never understood. So when you was making jokes and it was funny, I myself was there and many other people were there as well that aren't here with us and aren't keeping us with us here today because it was always the same thing. We just renamed it trafficking for another name, but when we renamed it, what happened was we separated what it really was. So what happens is pimps glamorize, right? And that's what they do. So it looks so glamorizing to youth, especially in the movies, especially with the music we have, it's glamorized. And because it's glamorized, actually pimps did an amazing job. An amazing job they did because they're amazing marketers. Because they made the world think that they didn't exist, but all these girls is out here lying about it. And it was just for fun the whole time. But then in the whole time, they told you they existed. Snoop said he was a pimp. Not only did he say he was a pimp, he did 2 articles, one on Yahoo, a video for you. Then he did another one when he actually was on the front cover, the Rock and Roll magazine. And he said, I'm a pimp, and here's where all the places where I pimped. And then we made excuses and said, no, he's not really. Is he really a pimp? No, he's lying. Pimps have never lied. We made excuses for him. And that's why, to this day, every day I have an interesting job. Not only do I get to help everybody, but every day I have to convince people that what happened to me actually happened. And that has actually happened to our youth. I have to convince them every single day because they think it's still a lie because of all the great marketing that Pimps has done. So to answer her question, what we can do is something real simple that I wish people would do. Learn the truth about what trafficking is, right? Because we are telling lies to people. The posters that we see are lies. You saw the posters? Because they're not anybody of color. They're on the ground crying and begging for help. Have y'all ever seen anybody that was begging and it was like, please help me? And so that's the other thing, we're getting not the truth about what trafficking is, especially to our African American people, because to be honest, we're like, double-edged sword on that. So if it's somebody in a white van kidnapping our kids, we are really mad. That is awful. We really wish that would stop, and we're about to do whole movies, everything about the white van. But see, the reality is 30% of my population are trafficked by their parents. And I don't see a poster about it. And because we don't see a poster, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the real truth and the realities that we see. We don't talk about boys every day, and boys have a bigger issue. Because immediately we think boys are gay. That's the first thing people say. Oh, they're driving, they must be gay. Imagine how they feel, and why they don't say anything. And think about that. Think about those amazing marketers. Because now those amazing marketers make you think that it's only girls, that everybody or either some are willing participants. And the other half of those are just adults. All the adults over here and they're all over there in that corner. And the younger ones are over here and they're never together. So that's not a true anything about how this life works. They're all together. Age has always been not a number. Because people want younger people. So my thing is messaging. So the message that we want to send is that this is the real reality that's happening, especially to African American youth. And what the messaging is, this is pimps, this is parents, these are strangers, these are women who also put their men in life too, that it can be anybody. And I think that's the real messaging that has to be out, that it can really be anybody.
And to add on to that, just on the legal side, I agree 100% that the number one thing that any community member can do is, one, understand that this is a real issue, that it exists, understand what it actually looks like and what it actually means. The legal definition of trafficking, I mean, as Tina mentioned, I mean, the law is somewhat new. I mean, if we go back to 20, 30 years ago, these cases were being prosecuted, but they were being prosecuted under anti-slavery legislation, not specific trafficking legislation. So that has been, in the last 13 or 14 years, we've had trafficking legislation, and that has really evolved. There have been lots of different amendments and updates as we learn more as a society. And I say learn more because it's always been there, but as we start to recognize, oh, this is what it is, and created that legal term for it. So the legal definition is the use of fraud, force, or coercion in exchange for a commercial sex act. The caveat is that if we're talking about a minor, then you don't have to prove fraud, force, or coercion. There just has to be that exchange and that commercial sex act. And that could be, the exchange could be lots of things. So one of the things that I think is really big for community members to understand is that that exchange doesn't have to be money. That could be literally anything of value. And a lot of there are a lot of kids out here that are being forced to exchange sex for a place to live, for, lots of different things. And so for us, when I go to different community events, there's always somebody in the audience that at the end of it says, hey, you know what? That same thing happened to me. I was at someplace at a church, and this woman was in her 60s, and she approached me afterwards and said, wow, so that's what it is that happened to me? Because I literally had no idea. I was having issues with my parents, and then it was a school security guard that said, hey, you keep having these issues with your parents, you want to come stay with me? Now, of course, this was a long time ago, because of course everybody's thinking school security guard, but all these things have been in existence for a very long time. And so just understanding, or lots of times a lot of people will say, oh man, that girl is just fast. And we have that label a lot, especially within our community, or people trying to protect. Like Tina said, if there's a white van, everybody's up in arms. But if it's Uncle Judy, not so much. Sometimes people don't really want to talk. If it's the mom, people don't want to talk. These cases are very, very difficult to prosecute. The Office of the Attorney General does not prosecute the traffickers/pimps. That is handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office. But these cases are very difficult to prosecute for lots of reasons and lots of intricacies, and especially when you're dealing with familial trafficking, when your mom or some family member was your very first pimp or trafficker. That can be very hard to separate out, and we rely heavily on Tina to be able to come in and start that rebuilding process. So I think that going back to the question, and that the number one thing is just awareness, understanding, and really actually seeing victims and people for who they are, and seeing them for not just, you're just a list of all these quote unquote bad behaviors, or you're a list of all these men or experiences that you've had, but you are an actual real person that we see, and that you as a community, we see you, we love you, and we want to support you and walk you through this lifetime of healing that you're going to have to go through.
My clinical perspective, as far as what we can do as a community, is more so the idea of enforcing the culture. We have a culture within the Black community that almost endorses the experience for our kids, and it makes it very difficult for them to go through and receive the proper services or adequate services that they need through the music that we listen to, the movies that we watch, the videos that we watch, how we talk to our kids, how we talk to each other, how we even allow them to talk to us. We don't really cultivate an area where they can feel safe and secure in order to have these conversations. I think it's also important for our kids to have a safe space. Our kids need to have a place that they always know that they can come back to, whether that's home, whether that's a school, no matter what that is. If they don't have a safe space, whenever they are empowered enough to leave, then they're not going to take that step.
Okay, you guys can hold it. I think I'm pretty loud. Personally, I can say I wanted to start Tribe, or I got the passion to start Tribe around the time of the Rashida witnessing. I had just started working in schools and working in programming. I was running a program center on Minnesota Avenue, and it was just so crazy because some of my kids lived in DC General with her. Some of their siblings played with her. Some of them were familiar with Khalil. He had preyed upon them before, or their parents navigated that situation differently. So that's my personal first step into the epidemic of sex trafficking. Welcome, join us. Sex trafficking in regards to Black girls, and then being in a situation like not just something I've seen on TV, but like down the street from me. When was it, Tina, your experience separate, of course, when was it for you all a situation that you realized, wow, this is a real epidemic in DC, this is something we have to deal with?
For me, as a case carrying social worker, it's when the population transitioned to having more suspected and confirmed youth on my caseload. It went from 1 or 2 to basically my entire caseload, not intentionally, but that's just the nature of the population that we're serving.
Wow.
You're welcome.
I would say for me, this has always, because I've had cases over the past 10 years that looking back, you know, with a different lens and saying, wow, this is what was going on, or I saw these signs. I didn't have the language at the time to really be able to put it to that situation. And so since the creation of Hope Court in January of 2018, and really being able to kind of step behind the curtain and learn from people like Tina, learn from the youth themselves about exactly what is going on, and just looking at it with a different lens, it has really just kind of exploded for me personally. And I really am passionate and dedicated to trying to be able to create or facilitate a system by which these young people feel seen and heard, and that they know that not just a safe space, but also being the prosecutor and being government. You know, that is traditionally a lot of young people don't, especially in this city, don't have a positive interaction, positive relationships with government, with lawyers, with prosecutors, with the court system in general, if they're on the juvenile side because they've gotten arrested, or on the child welfare side. I mean, it's not a pleasant thing to have to be removed from your home and bounced around from place to place. And so for me, just seeing the impact of being able to hopefully be a different type of government lawyer experience for victims and for young people is another thing that has really kind of kicked it up for me. It's just a passion for me.
So I went last on purpose. We got the obvious reasons. I said I was a survivor of trafficking, so that's the obvious. But let me tell you the other side of that. So it's harder for me, right? Because I'm coming from a world where every day I can see it, no matter what country I'm in, no matter what state I'm in, I can see it all the time. And I have never been wrong with what I see. So for me, I'm on the opposite end. I'm on the end that I'm begging the world to listen, right? So I'm gonna be like, finally somebody paid attention. I've been doing this for 11 years at Courtney's house. Before Courtney's house, I was at another organization, and I started up all their direct services. So first we started with on the foreign national side. So I only worked on the Korean population. It's actually funny when I say that, because usually people look at me like, and they talk to you. Here's the thing. The easy part of this that you all don't know is that we all had the same exact experience. So it's easy for me actually to talk to people because they know the same. As soon as I say something, they know and they share no matter what language it's in, because it's honestly the same thing. So I get to see the gaps when you're somewhere else. So the gap was, we were working with adults on the Korean side, but I was like, what about the US? What about, there's tons, no one's doing anything. So I actually had to convince the organization at that time I was working with to work with US citizens, because that was not their mission. So when I convinced them to work with US, it was adults. And then I lowered it because I knew it was going to lower. And then lowered it means by accident, because I just kept finding people in adult jail, but they were all minors, right? Most of them were attached to a foster care system, either here or a foster care system in another state. Now, the interaction at this time I actually did have with foster care was me going to foster care, and it was actually all the boys. So all the boys we found doing street outreach on the street. They're all between the ages of 12 to like 14, and I am actually happy to say every single boy still is in my program today, even the ones I met when I wasn't at Polaris Projects. I'm going to say that because that's true. But let me explain why. So at that time, they would tell me that they were in foster care, but didn't know their social worker's name. So I actually used to go down to the old headquarters of CFSA and sit and try to figure out who their workers were. Most of the time, none of the boys had a missing persons out. None of them. The girls did, but the boys didn't. Not only that, the boys were gone for months and months at a time, and nobody was looking or understanding what was happening to them. So I knew I also wanted to continue to work with boys, But the organization I was at that time, that was not the mission, and they said we couldn't work with boys. So as a side job, right, I worked with boys. I was like, oh, okay. They were like, refer them out. Sure, and who would that be? So I tried to figure it out. So then the ages got lowered. So like this organization, I lowered the age. I lowered it to U.S. citizens. I got us to work on U.S. citizens, so they only lowered the age to 17. And at that time, what I was saying was way under 17. So when I started Courtney's House, I wanted to have all the backups of what was out there, but there was gaps, like what I went through and wasn't out there to be served. One, I've always been for a drop-in center. So when I was at the other organization, I started a drop-in center too. And the reason why is that exactly actually what Tempey was saying, because you still need a safe place. Everyone was like, oh no, it's just housing. I'm coming from a different light. To me, just having housing never made sense because you can't live in housing forever. And also, it's not going to serve the 10,000 other people. You serve 4, that's good, but it's like 10,000 more that still need services. So you still need a place where people can feel safe, where they will actually confirm and talk to you, and you build a family. So I felt that that was important. I wanted to start that, but I also knew that you had to start everything with street outreach. So that's why we started street outreach. The first thing I ever did was start street outreach, and I didn't do any of this with funding. That's why I'm always, mesmerized when people are like, I'm going to start a house. In 10 years, we're going to raise some money, and in 10 years, we're going to have a house. And I'm like, wow, what do you do in the meantime? I'm like, oh, you serve people. And so for me, I like that, and this is so strange, but I don't regret nothing that I went through. Everything I went through brought me to what I am today. No kids can run game on me if they tried. You can't run a game on me if you tried. I know every network, because the networks has never changed. And so it gave me a different outlook that most of you all can't see. I always tell kids, we have a gift, right? It was to a negative gift that we have to flip to positive, because we can see things that other people can't really see or understand. We can. We have superpowers, is what I tell them. That we can actually see this and understand it. So that we have these superpowers, we also have to use them right and go back and help other people so they won't go through the same things that we have to go through. So I think we build a community, I don't have a huge recruitment issue because we build a community. And building a community, you have to have everybody a part of your community to the point where it's not snitching, but they're telling you information on their brothers and sisters because they don't want them to get in an unsafe situation. So I think when you work with a population, that's how I cringe when people tell me that, they had a dream and they woke up. And that dream told them to start housing, they've never done housing. They don't have no case management in their whole life, don't know what done sex trafficking, survival look like, but they got it in their heart to open one. Please don't do that, y'all. And let me tell you why. Partner with people that actually know, because see, God ain't gonna put nothing in your heart and not lead you to the right people to help you. It's just not gonna happen. That's not God's plan. Right. And so I think that's important because I think people have good intentions, but then you hurt, without that. So I think it's important that I wanted to start something that we build, but I want the kids to also be a part of it. So at Courtney's House is different because they can help hire survivors. Then, we have staff and they can help interview. Right now we started a youth policy group at Courtney's House, and it was solely because they wanted to, not because it was not my idea, because I'm a very much of a shielder too. And I don't want them put them in situations that they may not be comfortable. Kids are going to tell you that they want to speak out, that they want to do all these things because you're helping them, not because they're really ready. It's up to us the adults to understand that. But then they all told me what they wanted to work on, and how they wanted to work on it. So you have to think of creative ways so they're not putting their facials out there, they're putting their thoughts, and that they can help change policy. So we started our youth policy group so kids can have a voice, and the next thing we'll be taking on is changes they would like to see in foster care and changes that they would like to see and things they like in Hope Court. Because I think it's weird when people ask me how Hope Court is going and what I think it's so weird because I'm not in court. Who likes court anyway? Right. But we should ask the kids if we have this for them, and they should map out what they think is best and what parts help them. So I just think it's important that we remember that, if we keep calling them victims, and they're going to have a victim mindset and mentality, right? And they're never going to start thinking on the future and what they can do.
So, thank you for that. But being Black women, doing this work in these communities, what are the missing cultural competency pieces that you see? And I'm saying, like, who else is gonna ask you this question but me, right? So let's keep it a band. Like, what are the cultural competency issues that you already see in programming? Because Tina taught me, she's one of my mentors. I don't rebuild any houses that already exist. If there's a conversation about sex trafficking that needs to be had, I'm not going to Google things and then all of a sudden start offering this program. We go to the source, we go to our resources, we build a well-rounded source. So it's like, we got a street team, we got placement, we got legal, like that whole spectrum. We have another guest coming that's actually a mother of a survivor as well, but she's on her way in. But in that situation, with that person passing her experiences, I know that she has been turned off by some programming, specifically just because of the cultural competency pieces that are missing. So one, I know it's a loaded question, but as Black women, what are the things that bother you the most about these programs? So that somebody that has it in their heart, like you said, Tina, that's thinking about it will say, dang, that might be some implicit biases I hold and I might not need to do that.
I think Courtney. I think Tina touched on it. I think Tina touched on it a little bit already, just as far as being willing to listen to the survivors. They give me information. Before I started working with this population, I was a black slave, clean slave. And what I've learned, who I've learned the most from has been my kids. And if you listen, if you actually listen, not listen to respond, not listen for your treatment plan, not listen for whatever court report, if you actually listen to them, they will tell you the information that you need to know. They will let you know how to treat them. They will let you know where they want to stay, where they don't want to stay. And validating those feelings. Don't question those feelings because there's no way for anyone to know specifically how that particular person feels. And I think that's the huge gap. Like you said, people come in with these grandiose ideas of what they want to do, and it's not about what you want to do, it's what they want you to do and what they need for you to do.
So I'll just say that just in the question is, as a Black woman, I mean, I'm able to look at a young girl or a young boy and see myself or see my children in their eyes. And so I'm automatically looking at, children period, but especially when you're talking about a brown child, I am able to, and just the mother in me, so I'm able to identify on that level and just immediately wanting to help. And for me, what I found is the best way that I can help in my current role is to make sure that all the people that are touching that particular child in court, out of court, with the agency, that they really do see that person for who they are. And so I think one of the gaps for me would just be not really understand, because you would be surprised that some people that say, hey, I want to open up a house, for whatever reason, maybe they don't really, it's their lack of understanding of how to build a house. They don't really want to open a house, but they got a grant for opening a house, so therefore that's what they're going to do. But just not really willing to put the time in and devote the energy to getting to know and seeing the youth for who they are. So I think that is really the biggest thing. No problem. One of the biggest, because especially now, trafficking, all things CSEC is really popular. It is the thing of the moment. So there are tons of different organizations that want to come into this space and be able to provide services, and they have all types of plans, and maybe they're going to reinvent the wheel or not. But I just would always hope that they would actually really be in it for the right reasons, and that they are really able to see this person for who they are, which sounds very simple, but can really not. I've heard horror stories about how some service providers may have spoken to victims, especially, and let me not even say victims, but as we were getting the court started, and even, just, oh, you're going to go into that sex trafficking program, or, oh, you're going to do this. And these are people that are saying, I'm here to help, but the language that they're using in talking to you is automatically creating a wall and automatically re-traumatizing, and that trust and that is just gone. So I think that's a gap.
Just really quickly, I would just like to say, on a personal note, like I said, This is not just something that I talk about or just want to pass around or just get information about, but that I live and have experience with personally. I would like to welcome Ms. Dana Craig, who is a mother of a survivor and also my big cousin. So again, like this is within my family, but Dana, just want to give us some background. Okay.
My 15-year-old daughter was a victim of trafficking. And I'm afraid now that she might be kind of in and out with it. I'm late now trying to get her to come here, just so she can hear, but she don't want everybody in her business and she doesn't want to be looked at a certain way because every time it's discussed, it's very negative instead of helpful, as she may say. Like she just said, everybody says they're here to help you, but when you seek help, some people speak negative about it, so it kind of shied them away. And I mean, literally, she's outside, like she wouldn't even come in here because she was afraid maybe a peer or somebody that maybe know her might recognize her. So she didn't want me to be on this panel, and I was going back and forth with her, like, to tell her, I'm here for any parent who might miss, signs and signals of their kids, that it can happen to us all. I mean, I would have never thought that something like this could happen to my child, but it has, and I'm just trying to be proactive, going forward to keep her from falling back into it.
Yeah. So I'm Tina Frundt. I'm found at Courtney's house.
That was the plan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was gonna be what she think. But I'm
So, Dana, just another quick question. It's so weird, Dana, my big cousin. What would you say to parents? Like you said, you feel like you missed something. What do you feel like you missed? But I do want to note first beforehand, none of that is your fault. You did not miss anything as a parent. Like you said, you would never thought in anybody that would be here that would judge you is under the same circumstances and the same possibilities, right? So don't worry about that. But what did you think you missed?
Just the interactions, not knowing who her friends were, not knowing or not paying attention to small details. She tried to discuss some things with me, but by me being a parent and not really want to engage in what I consider nonsense, pretty much was kind of her way of hinting to me what was going on without, really vocalizing. So just listen to your kids. I don't care if they sing a song, a TV show that they watching, just really get in tune with your child because, like I said, she was trying to kind of tell me, but she really was afraid to tell me. So I would just say, pay attention and don't be so judgeful, to your kids.
So we have parent support groups at Courtney's house. So let me explain what parent support groups are. I think we heavily do counseling for the youth who are involved, but we don't have support for the parents. It's not people that you can talk to that went through about it. Sometimes our family aren't the ones you share with because they put you down and they make a judgment call too. And so parents need a support group that other parents, or there's nothing else with other foster parents and parents that work with, so you can have a support system. So I started that because my parents who adopted me loved me, and they were not part of the trafficking situation. So the harder part for parents is that when it's good parents, especially, we blame the parent, right? Especially in the media, especially amongst friends, we do. When it's not, who we don't blame is the trafficker who manipulated the child outside. We don't blame them. But we blame the parent when it's not always the parent at all. So I think it's really important. Also, we don't blame the man who buys sex. Do you know how easy it is? You can just walk, I'm sure your daughter told you. You can walk down the street at the bus stop, and that's it. That's how easy it is. Men approach our girls all the time, so much. We talk to them about how to say no. How to say no when they're following you, because when you say no, they don't stop. and you're 15 and 14 and they're following you. So you're nervous to get in the car. It's not their fault. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is to get in the car and oblige, because you don't know what's about to happen if you don't. So I think that's something too for parents to understand that there are other parents that did. They called 100 places. People didn't listen to them when they called. Police didn't know. You got the wrong police. We have a whole unit, but you didn't get that unit.
Right.
You got the random police officer who doesn't know the resources at all, who didn't give you the refer. The people who find us, and I'm gonna be honest, you asked a question I didn't get the answer about color yet and what it is.
Oh, yes.
Everybody gave a real PC answer.
Oh, if they actually got it right there.
Everyone gave a PC answer on the same reason where you left. You still gave an answer.
Okay, well, let me ask it this. Do you see this as a gendered problem, a racialized problem, an issue regarding class, ethnic origin, or any other status?
So I really want to answer that because Courtney's House is the only survivor-run, African-American run, where 85% of the population is African-American. And we don't use one. And think about that for a moment. Of course, what do I hear from our own youth? It's about culture. It's about the people nodding. Number one thing they hate is when people say, I didn't go through what you went through, but it was something really similar. Please don't you ever say that ever. Ever. And it's very, actually for us, we smile. Really, we want to get out of this right away. Because what you said was offensive. Because you don't know. And it's okay not to know. I don't know why everyone thinks they should know. Like, it's okay. Because that's fine that you don't know. But never say it. So I hear a lot of things. I hear that they had bad experiences, people judged them, they made a comment about it, or they overheard them talk about their whole trafficking. Or one day they were on a website and they were like, wait, that's my whole trafficking story, and it's on somebody's website.
Wow.
And that has happened an awful lot. And so I think that's one thing. I want to take the legal side of it, because although we refer to legal, we need more African Americans that don't want to get paid a lot, who are lawyers, to take these cases. No, I'm telling you that. Because it's not that we don't have amazing law firms and our kids don't eventually like the lawyer. The thing is this. Nobody meets anyone, no lawyer, no nothing, unless they're at Courtney's house. We vet them, like they won't meet with them because they don't feel like they really understand. Or when they're telling their story to a lawyer, right, and they're telling them what happened, the lawyer has to stop them every few minutes and say, what's that word mean? Now, if I have to keep stopping you and ask you every 2 seconds, what's that mean? And what that mean? Do you want to keep telling me your life? At this point, you're like, no, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So it's not just, it's like every aspect, mental health. Now, people are saying they're trained in trauma therapy, right? But then you get down and you start talking about things, and then they come back and like, I think the real problem is they have sex a lot. They love having sex. You're like, wait, what? Like, that's not this. And then they don't understand, right? Because their specialty is in sex trafficking. And they did go to a class once, and they read a book. And so the book didn't cover all the other language, so now they don't know. And I really want you to think about that, because actually Rashida said something, this is fairly new, right? So when something's fairly new, no one knows everything. The real experts are the people who actually went through it, and lived. And those other people wrote books off of their story. So you have to have a survivor at every aspect help you. So if you want to open something, that's fine. Who are you partnering with? What survivor do you work with to open? Because how would you know what they really need? And so that's like the number one tip I can give you that the kids complain about the most. Because all of them been referred to 100 programs that most of them never went to. And some of the reason was that either it was mixed. So I only work with sex trafficking. Some people work with at-risk, some people work with sexual assault, and that's fine. But that's just not my population. My population is confirmed, and that's my only population. Actually, today we had to talk about that. We were talking, and one of the youth said they were talking about a new person, actually a new boy that was in the program. And they were like, everybody's in here for the same thing, right? And then everyone's like, right, they're like, oh, that is so much better that it is, right? And no one says anything like when they come in or anything negative. They're like, oh, isn't that so much better? Because you can talk freely and no one judges you. So most of the people, we got to understand that, like, it's about non-judgment. We have a non-judgment policy at Courtney's house. My policy is this. I can't judge you because we all in the same boat. The boat tight up in here. I'm judging you. We not sleeping because we all in here together.
And I think that's like really, really important, how you get them to open up. So having programs that are not only culturally competent, but also culturally knowing about trafficking, like the ins and out. All my staff aren't survivors, but one thing they'll tell you is what Tina taught us, and the real ins and out, not the little baby stuff, things that they really know, real signs that they know. So I think that's important too. No judgment ever.
Can I just add on to that, just for mom, because I really appreciate you even coming here and sharing your family story, and just to Tina referenced earlier that pimps, traffickers are marketing experts, and just for parents or whomever in the community to really let that sink in, because there is a significant, and Tina can speak to it more than I can, grooming process that takes place. And this investment, any trafficker is going to do whatever it takes to protect the business model, which is making money off of other people. And so just like they may spend a significant amount of time getting to know you, and a lot of times what I'm hearing is even feeding you the language of what to say. So if your parent asks you, if the police ask you, if your social worker asks you, this is what you need to say to them. So sometimes parents can be asking all the quote unquote right questions, and the answers that you're getting are not really going to get you to what's really going on. And so just, you really have to, and that's why connecting with people like Tina is so important, because I have cases right now where the social worker, before we were able to meet and discuss the case, may have had a preliminary conversation with the youth, and will come back and say, oh, no, there are no concerns, there's nothing going on, no. And I'm like, okay, well, you just told me all these different risk factors. You just told me that every time she leaves, and then she comes back and she's got $600 every time, 3 new phones every time, this same guy that she won't give his name is picking her up. Those are all risk factors for me. So we need to have a meeting, and we need to have Tina at the table, because Tina is able to look in, and that goes back to survivors being incorporated in all parts of the process. The other thing with doing that is that it really gives you an automatic buy-in from a survivor, and an automatic behind the scenes look at what really is going on. And so Tina is able to come in and have a conversation with the youth that nobody on the social work team, nobody in the court, nobody anywhere else is going to be able to have, and really kind of get to the bottom of what's happening. And so then after that, then it's a completely different conversation. It's a completely different story. And then we're able to come in with some support. And in fact, when I'm talking to people at the agency, my first thing is we need to get Tina involved first, because it's just very difficult. If you were to talk to somebody that was prosecuting one of these cases at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and this goes with the trend, and as people gain more understanding, nobody's going to be able to go in and just prosecute a human trafficking case just, off the bat. They want to really be able to come in and build a relationship. From all the prosecutors that I've spoken with, let me just say that, let me not say no one, but from the prosecutors that I've spoken with at the U.S. Attorney's Office, they do spend time trying to build a relationship with the youth first, trying to connect them with services, because going through the process of being involved in a criminal case is also re-traumatizing. And so one of the things that we do in Hope Court for youth on the juvenile side or the child welfare side is just create a different approach. If you're in the juvenile system, maybe you got picked up for shoplifting or whatever, if the underlying reason was for trafficking, and you come into Hope Court, or if you're in foster care, there have been plenty of kids that may have bounced around from home to home. Every time the foster parent is calling the agency, hey, this person has to go. I came home again and there were 3 adult men in the house, or she keeps leaving, this person keeps running away. There are all these signs, all these indicators, whereas 10 years ago, it may have just been, oh, well, we're looking, this is just a difficult to place child and get bounced around from place to place. But now we actually have a mechanism to look behind the behaviors and find out exactly what is going on and be able to treat them and provide services to them in a completely different way. So, and I think I kind of went off my original response, so I'll just hand it there.
Okay, so just before we have to wrap it up, because I know we are on a schedule. That's what I'm about to come to, yes. So if I would like it if we can get some questions from you all. If you don't have any, I still have more. But Ms. Miller, go ahead.
And I'd like to know, because in listening, right, I hear, and I have about 2 young ladies in my mind right now, where some of those red flags that you talked about are things that I hear coming through my office. What is our best strategy when we have a concern or when there's a red flag about a young person and these sorts of patterns are coming up? What should our first step be outside of calling CFSA?
So let me just add in. So that is, I'm glad that you said that, because that is the first step, is to call the hotline 671-SAVE-202. And you know, so the law has changed somewhat recently on that, and that CFSA is obligated to investigate all allegations of trafficking if it's a known or unknown maltreater. So some people think that if they don't have a name, if the youth doesn't come in and say, you know, James X is doing this to me or is trafficking me, they can't call in. So we definitely want to investigate all incidents of that happening in the city. And through that process, once that call comes in, it'll get routed to myself, to some other people that are specifically working these cases. And depending on which way it goes, we will connect the case to Tina and Courtney's house. But the CFSA does have a process by which they review and look at all of the hotline calls that come in, and then the cases that they already have within their system. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest that you do. And don't necessarily try to, you don't have to have all the answers. Some people think that they have to have like the smoking gun, but call in with all of the risk factors and concerns that you have, and make sure in the report that you do say that you have concerns for trafficking, for human trafficking, so that make sure that language is in the report so that it gets routed to the right place. The other thing that I would also suggest is just having some training, people coming to the school and talking to the students. And I know that outreach is a big part of what OAG does, and I'm sure other people on the panel as well. And usually, anytime that, you know, we go to a school, there's always going to be somebody in the room that can identify with some of the things that are being discussed. But I think that it's really good for, even if it doesn't resonate with you, for other young people to be aware that this is what's happening, so that, going back to the culture comment, we can really start changing the culture, because the young people, I mean, they are the culture. And so just being able to put different language and a different level of understanding, I think also goes towards changing that culture, so that maybe the next time when your friend is telling you that this is what's going on, instead of endorsing it or judging her for it, then that young person would be able to look at it in a different way and encourage a different outcome.
And I'm going to say this. I know how people feel about calling the CPS hotline. Let's have a real conversation about that. So I know how people feel, and I'm going to say that since I am now like on this committee that's reviewing the CPS calls and the things that are coming through, and I can promise you all that they really, really are. So we also work with CPS investigators. Text me, call us. Like, do you think, can you get taught in the very beginning? If you don't feel comfortable, sometimes people call Courtney's house and we report to the CPS hotline because we're mandated reporters, so we report it too. But please do. I know in the past people, because I talk to people about this a lot, and I know what people went through when you call CPS. Should I do too? Right. And we had to train them. So now they really are trained, and they really do ask you about sex trafficking. It's important though. Because what's happening is everyone's calling these other hotlines and it's not being reported. And so then it's not getting to us and we're not knowing that it's an issue. So it's important. So the same signs that you just heard for the girls are actually the same exact ones for boys. There are no difference. So if they fall in those categories, it will be for the same, either male or female.
Oh, and one other thing I wanted to add on to that about calling the hotline, because I know one of the common things that I hear is that I call the hotline and nothing happened, especially from schools. I call the hotline and the kid is, still at home or what have you, so what was the point? And I would just encourage that anytime you have information that you make the call, because sometimes there's puzzle pieces, there's a whole big story that, so that when you called on the 6th of December and you were able to put one piece of the puzzle, and maybe there wasn't enough information at that time, but then somebody else may have called, somebody else that has touched that child may have called, or then you get more information and you call back on the 12th, and maybe that's the final puzzle piece that put everything together. So I just want to encourage people that even if you feel like you don't see a result after the first call, don't let that stop you from making any additional calls, and do know that there are people that are really looking at these cases with a really traffic-informed, trauma-informed, if you will, lens.
I gotta get ready to go.
Okay. Sorry, so moving on. Any other questions from the audience really quickly? Any other questions? No? Okay. So just finally, so we can
ask a question.
Oh.
Tempey, as a frontline social worker dealing with the kids, I guess your disposition will be similar to a dean where you'll see them more regularly than someone from the hotline call. How did you not get the kids to the point of wanting services, or what did you do in your own way to make them feel safe or to help combat some of this?
Cultural competency and consistency. When our kids talk to me, I let them talk to me however they feel comfortable. If they want to curse, as long as they're not cursing at me, I let them curse however they want to get their story out. And consistency, whatever I tell my kids I'm going to do, I do it. If I can't do it for whatever reason, it has to be something extreme, and I let them know exactly why. And it builds a sense of trust, and trust is really big with this population. I think the hardest part with working with this population is the reality that you can do all the consistent things and then they'll still, or at least it can be perceived as if they throw it in your face. And so service providers have to know that, it's going to be a lot of resistance. There's going to be a lot of times where you just chasing them. I'd say the first 6 months of any case is really just building that relationship and just chasing them. Sometimes kids won't see you. Sometimes they won't answer your phone call. Sometimes they won't text you back. I still send those text messages. Even if I don't get a response. I still make those phone calls. I still show up when I say I'm going to show up. And I think that makes all the difference with kids. They want to know, they want to be able to trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and they want to be able to trust that you're going to be there.
And just to add on to that I've talked to a lot of adult survivors, and at different events, and oftentimes they may be asked by an audience member, what was it that finally where you finally got out, or what happened to make you finally leave? And so, usually the story that I hear, they may have, it was that one person or that one, let me just say this, survivors can always point to that one person that was very consistent, that saw them, that didn't judge them. And with the understanding, the pull of the life is very, very strong. We talked about, the significant grooming process that goes into it. And so a lot of what we're doing on the government and the agency side is really trying to build that relationship so that we're able to convince people that we have a safe alternative for them also. Because we need to combat knowing that the pimp or the trafficker has probably been telling them, and maybe sometimes showing them through physical violence, what would happen if you were to ever leave. And so there's that whole long process of just building up trust. And so Tempey, there have been situations where youth have been in active situations and they've called Tempey,
as a result of that relationship, and knowing that, you know, if I call you and say, okay, I'm at this YZ location, or this is happening to me, some people might say, what? Oh my goodness, after all that I've done for you, and after all those services, and after everything, and now you're back with that person, I cannot believe that you're doing that. That is like the first no-no, but to just actually hear, and that's why I keep saying, see people for who they are, and just to actually hear that, process it, and then just move on, in terms of, you know, trying to help is a really big.
I think I also say that to continue to offer the services to kids, the last thing you want is for them to finally get to the place and they're ready to leave and the services are no longer available. So as much as the kids deny it or decline it, say they don't want a placement or they don't want to get therapy or they don't want whatever it is that you're offering, continue to offer it, let them know you're going to continue to offer it so that whenever they are ready, it's still available to them.
Okay, so just the three of you, if you could give us your top 3 things you want people to know. It can be an action item or it can just be information in regards to human trafficking, pimping, whatever we're calling it, whatever colloquialism you use, whatever that is. What are 3 things that you need people to know or to do to make your job better?
I wouldn't link it to my job, but my top thing for me is for people to know what it looks like, and that it's not this commercialized look like Tina was mentioning earlier. How prevalent it is within the Black community, specifically what it looks like for our community and how enmeshed it is with our culture. It's very much enmeshed in our culture, and for us to actively combat that.
I can go. So I think that one thing would be similar for people to understand what it is, to understand what all of the risk factors and warning signs are, for people to be committed, for the community to be committed to changing its view on how we view survivors, and even how we view, especially in our community, sometimes the traffickers, and to understand that there are government agencies, and I just keep going back to, especially if we're talking about minors, CFSA, Office of the Attorney General, but that there are some good people in government that are really and truly dedicated to helping survivors. There are some, and I know that in the Black community, there can be a very charged relationship with police for, you know, a host of reasons. But I can just say that in our office, we work with some very dedicated detectives that make it their mission to help any way that they can. They're at Courtney's house. They're in the streets looking. They're, you know, sometimes I have detectives blowing up my phone, like, why can't you all do more? So just understanding that there is a whole community within the district that is passionate about helping survivors, finding survivors, getting services to survivors, and to reach out to the various resources that are out there. If, like I said, if it's a minor, calling the hotline, reaching out to Tina's house. I know the Office of the Attorney General has some resources on its website, but just to reach out to community support. Okay.
I would just say be aware and just kind of familiarize yourself with services, because not knowing, you know, where to go or who to speak to in regards to it is very challenging. And just being aware and, like I said, knowing where to go, because when it first, you know, was presented to me by my daughter, it wasn't even my daughter who let me know that she was involved in it. It was actually her friend who saw that no matter what time they called or where I had to pick them up from and things of that nature, it was her friend who saw that I was caring enough about my child that she just came clean with everything, and, you know, shared with me what was going on. And since that day until today, I mean, going forward, I'm just in every type of program, listening to everything I can to be mindful and helpful to them, and plus to educate myself.
So my question is, with everybody now but trafficking being a hot topic right now, I'm finding that there are these people who, like you said, may have good intentions, who are posting on social media, who are starting to have forums, and they want to solve the problem. What would be your warning to people who really are like, they hear this and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened, we should do something. What would be your warning to them?
For a warning, I mean, I think I would just say, like, buckle up, because you really have to be committed and really and truly dedicated. I mean, Tina's gone, but I often say to her, I don't know when she sleeps, because it is like a 24-hour job. I mean, she's texted me at 3 o'clock in the morning with youth, and I know she had been working with them long beforehand. So I would say that you really have to be in it for the right reasons. Align yourself with survivors or organizations that are already in that space, like Tina mentioned, but just know that this work is hard to quantify a lot. I mean, everybody that
works with this particular population, I mean, data is very hard, and because one, very few, at least that we see in the district, are going to just come forward and say, oh yes, I'm a victim, I'm a survivor of sex trafficking, so then you can check that off that box. So the data is hard to come by, because it really does take an incredible investment in time to get to know someone, to really understand what's going on behind the scenes. And so I think for a lot of organizations, maybe they may come in and think in 6 months or a year, I want to be able to show that I've done X, Y, Z things, or I want to show that I've made this impact by some numerical number. We quote unquote rescued or saved 20 people. And so I think they really need to understand the actual population and understand and define for themselves what success looks like for them. For us in Hope Court, success might be that we had a youth that was, in a lot of active trafficking situations before, and now she's relying on her team. So she's reaching out to her social worker, she's reaching out to Courtney's house. We have the safety plan. She's coming to court and actually saying, hey, this is what's going on. I'm looking. So success isn't always going to be they're no longer in the life, or they're no longer associating with the trafficker. And so just for people to really understand that and really learn from people that are already experts in this space on how to move forward.
I definitely agree with buckle up. As far as working with the population is very challenging, but to really know your why. Like what's your intention behind starting your organization? What's your intention behind the program that you want to start or what you want to do? And the reason that's important is because that's what's going to have to drive you. Because success, like she said, success is not going to be always them not being involved in the trafficking situation. So if you don't have that why behind it, it's going to be very easy to get discouraged. It's going to be very easy to even get burnt out with it. And you don't want to start from the ground up and end up stopping before you even really get started.
Just be open and not so judgmental, because you want to hear so many things, and you're not going to know what to believe and not to believe, because you're in disbelief of what you're hearing. So when you make yourself available, you really got to make yourself available, because like I said, them calls can come in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening. Just try to make sure that you can be available to that individual.
All right. Just final question, just to you today. How old was your daughter when you since you first started experiencing trafficking, to the point of which that you became aware? Like, what was that time distance? Because I think a lot of parents think that they're going to catch it and they caught it the day before, when essentially sometimes, like you said, there's a grooming process that happens for weeks or months beforehand.
13 is when I actually found out. My daughter was 13. And like I said, it was her friends. I worked for the Metro system, and her friend said it started by one of their friends inviting them to a party. And when they got to the party, there was a lot of things going on that they couldn't remove themselves from, and it just transpired from that point on. And the person that was trafficking them, he was using the Metro system. He know that kids ride for free, and nobody is going to question them traveling to and from, regardless of what time, that they're in the system or not. That was his way of, getting them around and doing things like that.
And can I just add on to that really, really quickly? When you mentioned the party, and so just also where we are with social media and all of that, just for people to understand that a lot of this recruitment, it's no longer the, dude standing on the corner with the jacket and the 20 million gold chains and all that. It's somebody that you meet online, parties. We have a lot of youth that find out about various events. It could be modeling gigs, it could be hosting. I'm having this party and, you're 14. I just need you to host. I just need somebody to come and look pretty and hand out flyers, and I'll even let you smoke something, I'll let you drink something, and so then they're like, oh wow, I get to, pretend like I'm older than I really am. Or sometimes it's rap videos. I'm having a video and I want you to come be a model in the video, and then you get there and it's not what you thought. So it's whatever that hook is, and social media has really allowed for that to just kind of be a free market. And a lot of pimps and traffickers are very bold. I mean, they will just legit advertise online, on Facebook, on Instagram. There are so many, wherever there is an online exchange of people, then you have a risk. Fortnite, video games, Roblox, all these video games that, kids are playing where they're communicating with people. There are so many different apps. I mean, I've even heard of cases where stuff is happening on Etsy, Pinterest, just because that is an exchange where there are lots of people. And so again, pimps are going to do whatever it is that they need to do to make money. And they are really crafty and creative in how they go about finding new victims.
Tempey, just real quick, because I know we gotta leave. I went to a training with DC Rape Crisis Center at Courtney's house, and some of the detectives that work with him in her court, maybe about 2 years ago. And the most shocking statistic, or fact that I learned was that most trafficked kids go to school or go and see a doctor, in that time within a year of them being trafficked. But they're getting to these adult services, like they're in services where other adults, like mandatory reporters, should be seeing or should be like looking and paying attention to this. What are the holes that you see missing in those systems? Is it training? Is it just awareness around the language? Is it, and even for you, Dana, as a parent, what were the holes that you saw that it took for your daughter's friend to be the person to tell you, and not necessarily like people paying attention on NTA? Is this something that we know now that NTA needs to now campaign about? Is this something that they need to be vigilant about? Like, does there need to be an endpoint to when the kids can use their cards and stuff like that? Like, what are those holes in the system that you see that we can plug, or that we as a community can try to build resources around to plug?
I think it's important to note too, a lot of times the traffickers want the kids to go to school. They want them to go to school, they want them to go to the doctor. They want you to go on business as usual because you don't want to draw too much attention to yourself. The biggest thing is the awareness, the training, being able to identify any risk factors. Just because it's a risk factor and you don't know for sure, it's better to, explore and it not be true than to ignore it and it is true. So giving people the training necessary for them to have the skills, the clinical skills needed to be able to identify that beyond just a therapeutic setting of a therapist or a community support worker. When you go see your primary care physician, when you go see your nurse at school, everyone needs that type of training because it's affecting everyone.
And just to add on to that, I mean, trafficking can't exist without the community. I mean, it happens in the community. It happens, the term is that it happens in plain sight because it wouldn't be able to operate. And that's part of what, Tina was talking about before, that this has been in existence forever. But it's the person that, maybe you're at a doctor and you didn't really think, okay, well, she came in here with somebody that she said was her uncle, and I offered, oh, you can wait outside. He didn't want to wait outside. Every time I asked the patient a question, he would answer. Just little nuanced things like that, and maybe that medical professional really thought, oh, this is a family member. But just having that information, and one of the things that we're trying to do at OAG is literally train all parts of community and business, because it's happening not just on Metro, it's happening on Amtrak, it's happening in hotels, Uber. It's happening in Uber, it's happening in restaurants and bars. I mean, it's literally happening everywhere. And so I think that, as Tempey said, the entire community as a whole, not just in our respective positions and careers, but even as individual community members, churches, ANC, everybody needs to be trained. Everybody needs to know what the risk factors are, what the local resources are in their jurisdiction, and what supports are available. And that's, I think, the only way that we're really going to be able to circle in on this, because like I said, the traffickers, they are crafty. They are crafty. I mean, it used to be 5 years ago that kids would have all types of tattoos and traffickers and the branding and all of that. And then they're like, okay, we need to pivot because MPD is realizing, everybody that has this tattoo, then you belong to so-and-so. So we need to pivot and adjust and move. It's like a cat and mouse kind of game that we always have to try to stay ahead of. Even the language on social media changes.
All right. Well, I would like to say thank you for all of you for coming, being a part of this conversation. Clearly, this room should have been packed because we see that this is a bigger problem. At least I know now, even coming into this is a bigger problem than what we even thought, like having this conversation, how widely it is spread and how resources that we are paying for as taxpayers are contributing to this problem. So that also empowers me to know that we have a real responsibility to be in control of those things and to demand more attention, not just via social media, but legislatively, financial resources for programs like Courtney's House, so that it is not the only house working to serve 85% of the population. So again, on behalf of Tribe, I appreciate you for coming. I would love to give another round of applause to our panelists. Thank you so much. And yeah, so we're going to do this again.